Hey guys, welcome to Sunday.
Yeah.
Today's been a long day.
It's not been such a great day. Well, it was
it
was a good day at the beginning.
The first half was really great, and we couldn't stop laughing the whole way home. And then the second half just kind of fell to crap. So let's talk about the second half first.
Then we can end on a good note.
Yeah.
By the time you've seen this, I mean, it'll be after our wedding. You'll have already seen the little video that we made before we left about how my computer's broken and everything, but that's what I've been dealing with all day today. If you didn't see that video for whatever reason, my computer broke.
Yeah, he seriously worked on it for over 4 hours.
Yeah, the hard drive is just not working anymore. I need to get another one. And it's up in the air right now whether or not I lost several days or a whole week's worth of vlogs. It really depends on a lot of different things. I'm just not entirely sure what we're gonna have and what we're not gonna have. But yeah, by the time you get this, it'll obviously have been fixed because I'll have been able to start editing vlogs again.
Yeah.
So
either there's missing vlogs or there aren't, but
so there's your explanation for why there's missing vlogs, if there are any missing vlogs,
or why it took so long.
Or why it took so long for them to get to you. But yeah,
it's out of our control, and I know we talked about it a lot, and we decided to just not worry about it for now, to enjoy California and our relationship, and we know that you guys will be willing to watch the vlogs when they're uploaded, and
yeah,
that personally for us, since we're still vlogging every day, so we still have this experience, so if we are just doing it for ourselves, we have that to start off with, and if we're doing it for you guys, then you'll get them eventually, so either way, it's okay, and it's right before our wedding. We don't want to have to stress out about things. So.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard not to stress out about it. But I know me, when we get back, is going to be very overwhelmed with how many vlogs are going to need to be edited, but hopefully it'll be alright.
And I'm gonna be gone for 3 or 4 days, so Chris will have plenty of time to do stuff without me bothering him and interrupting him.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess.
But for now, this gives Christopher time to read and stuff.
Yeah.
This is the book he's reading right now. I read him a couple pages of it earlier, and he did not like my narration.
She was making stuff up as she was going along when I wasn't paying attention.
I was adding stuff.
Anyway.
And how was I talking? I don't remember.
Very strangely.
I was talking like this the whole time, I think, or something, just really trying to be obnoxious. It was good to spend time together and
we spent the rest of when I just kind of succumbed to the realization that I just wasn't going to be able to fix my computer. It's very difficult for me to do that. It's very difficult for me to just stop and just realize that I can't do anything about it. Or I'd still be working on it right now if I hadn't just sat down and realized that I couldn't do anything with it. So
I was trying to film, and the people in our hallway kept just interrupting it. And
it was so messed up. Just how loud they were being so late at night. I fell asleep, and while I was asleep, she was trying to film, and
I mean, I had taken a nap earlier too.
Yeah, but it's just she wasn't able to film because they were so loud, and I had the same problem the other day.
I can't use the footage. I deleted it because I'm gonna be so mad going through and trying to edit it. It's just, yeah. So we were both really frustrated about different things, and so we kind of just calmed down and sat together, and we turned on a movie because sitting in silence was just making me even more frustrated because it wasn't silence.
It wasn't silence at all. There was people being loud everywhere.
So I wanted silence, but since we couldn't have that, instead we turned on a movie and we watched Thumbelina.
The Don Bluth animation of Thumbelina.
Yeah.
It was good. It was fun.
It was fun. I mean, almost every fairy tale is super problematic. Yeah. And so the basis of this movie is A, extremely problematic, that it's insta-love, and B, each season takes 1 or 2 days, 3 or 4 at the max, And so they're like, oh, we're starting the fall leaves. And then the next day or two, they're like, the frost is coming. It's going to be winter in like 2 days. And we're trying to hold off the frost. And then it goes from one season to the next ridiculously fast. Which maybe that's just how this world is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they fell in love so fast, is because they only live for like 70 years. But 70 years is only one or two of our years, because their seasons go so fast. Like a whole year takes like 15 days.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe I'm just thinking way too much into it, but that's something I'd never noticed before. I'm like, wow, they literally start fall and then the next day say, we'll try to hold off the frost. And I'm like, in my experience, the first day that the leaves start to yellow a little bit is not the next day.
It's going to start getting snowy.
There's not going to be, like, frost in the ground in the mornings, like, at least in California. So, anyway, and then 3 days later, it's not completely full snow. So, anyway, but we watched it, and it was really fun, and Chris liked the music. And so we were able to take that time, and I was, like, crying from being so frustrated and mad. So that's why I've removed the makeup, and so now it's much later. I'll be going home soon, and we want to tell you about the good part of our day, though.
Yeah, the part before I came home and realized my computer wasn't working anymore.
That didn't suck. So first thing is, I just really quickly wanted to mention, so our churches, we don't really have like a preacher who preaches to us from the pulpit. Instead, they'll like ask people from the congregation to like prepare like a talk for about 2 weeks in advance. They'll ask them and they'll prepare over those 2 weeks and then just give it from the pulpit, and there'll be like 3 different speakers for each Sunday.
Both of us have done that in the past few months.
For this particular congregation that we're in. And I've done it before as well, and so has Chris for different things. So it's very normal, and it's really immersive or whatever. And so one of the guys, so usually they give us like a theme to speak on. And it was this older couple and this younger girl who were talking today. So the older couple are like in their 70s, possibly up to their early 80s. Like they're pretty old and have the completely stark white hair, and they're really fun. I've noticed them before. Yeah. And the guy had this like slightly English accent.
Oh, yeah, he has an English accent of some sort.
It's not like super thick though. It was just like very mild and very soothing, and he has this very soothing voice. And he gets up, and usually they gave us a topic, and he gets up and so he's like, they didn't give me a topic to speak on. They said I could choose whatever I wanted. So I'm going to talk about the origins of the English Bible. And just
that's usually not what people the thing is, it's not something people usually would talk about. Or like
anyway,
it's usually that's like some sort of, it's more metaphor and like inspirational and like
they'll give you
that kind of thing. But he like sat there and gave us a history lesson on the history of the origins, literally, of things. Like he was going over like the original translations and how they were translated, and just like when they were translated into certain languages, and like just lots of different history things. It was one of the most interesting things I've ever heard.
The start of the Bible up until the King James
yeah.
translation, because there were a couple translations before that were not as widely accepted. So it was really funny, and I mean, it was like super interesting, but it was so funny. Like when he started to say like, I'm going to be talking about the origins of the Bible, I looked at Chris and I was like, I literally thought he was joking. I thought he was being sarcastic, because a lot of people start off their talk with a joke. Yeah. I thought that was his joke, and then it wasn't his joke, and he went on, and it was really interesting but super funny, and like I laughed throughout it a lot, and
yeah, same.
It was so good. It was such an interesting talk. But yeah, usually they'll talk about like charity or faith or like stuff like that.
Just more, like I said, more metaphorical or inspirational type things that lift people up, and this lifted us. This was very interesting. It was it was very good.
It was super fun. So, and then one of the last things he said, because he was talking about people, how they need to like appreciate having the Bible, because so many people didn't for so long, and we need to appreciate that we can carry it in our pockets literally with us all the time because our phones.
It kind of like translated, especially for us, like just to books in general. Feel thankful that we are able to read and have books, and especially that we're able to have
that we're educated
and have the opportunity to read this kind of stuff, and so, how lucky we are to have it.
Right when he was finishing off with that, he's like it was written in this very archaic like type of script, and he's like, and S's often looked like F's, and so if
he was like I's and J's were often interchangeable, U's and V's were often interchangeable, and then S's often look like weird little F's.
And so he's like, so if you're gonna read the word blessed, it looks like bleffed.
Bleffed. And just hearing this 70-year-old dude with an English accent say bleffed
from the pulpit, it was just beautiful.
It was a wonderful start, but that wasn't the whole thing that happened.
That was just something that we wanted to start with because it was really funny and super interesting and nothing I've ever heard from the church pulpit before.
Now that we're getting married, we're going to be going to a different ward, and it's sad because we there's new people in the one we're in right now that we got to talk to today for the first time, and
so
that was what happened afterwards. After church was over, when we had our little food gathering that's called a linger longer, we were talking to this group of, was it four boys. They're all related. They're all brothers. They're all varying different ages.
Well, they just got back from California.
They got back from California.
They lived here before, and they lived in California for a few years, and then they moved back here, and pretty much this is 18 and older. And so the oldest boy's been going for a few months, but we've never really, talked to him too much. We have a little bit, but not that much. We just haven't been thrown in the same circle, I guess, or hit off a conversation. But then the next oldest brother just turned 18 and graduated high school, and so he's moved up into it, into our kind of, group or whatever for the young single adults. And then the two younger brothers were just, hanging out afterwards when we have our linger longer, because they're just, free food. Why not?
Yeah, so they were all just sitting there, and they were talking about Legend of Zelda, and we just had this long conversation about video games and books. Yeah. It was very good. We realized, well, I knew already that they were all brothers. She realized that later on that they were all brothers.
Yeah, and they're actually the children of that one author that I didn't particularly enjoy the book of.
They're all the sons of the lady she was talking about in the vlog, met an author whose book you hated. Yeah, that whole rant.
I didn't like her.
That whole rant. Yeah. These were her sons.
Apparently, and which I didn't even know right away. Chris knew it, and then I realized, and I was like, well then.
Yeah. The good thing is she asked what their favorite books. So they've read all of their mom's books, so she asked what their favorites were, and they didn't list the one that she doesn't like, so that was a good sign that maybe the other ones are better.
So I'll have to try more, but we talked about Legend of Zelda for a really long time. That's kind of how we got pulled into the conversation, and that was the first thing that was just really cool because we haven't really hit it off with anyone in the area. It's we like people and we're friends with people and we'll talk to people, but we just don't really have a lot in common.
Yeah.
And so these people...
We haven't really met anyone that we have a lot in common with besides, Steve.
Yeah.
Who we hang out with. This is, the only person we ever hang out with is Steve, so...
And so these people we actually had a lot in common with, and we just all had a great time. It was...
Yeah, we sat there, for a half hour longer than we usually do, and talked for a lot longer than we usually do.
Yeah, about Nintendo and just stuff like that, and it was just... really, really fun. I laughed so much because they were each saying different things that were making me crack up, and
we eventually came to talk about the fact that I don't know how it came up, but we were talking about how we were going to move soon because we were talking about how we're going to be changing congregations and how kind of sad it was that we finally met people that we had some sort of good conversation with. Though we were just talking about how we're going to be moving, hopefully soon, out of our crappy little studio apartment. And they started trying to convince us to stay in this apartment that they know about. They were like, we have this apartment right now that it's in this good area. Because we had mentioned that we were we're looking in this one area, and they're like, oh, we have an apartment in that area. Maybe you guys should come look at this. And they started describing the apartment to us. They're like, oh, it has a one bedroom and has this little office in it, and it's nice, and it's in this one very specific area. And we were just like,
their mom was over there at that point, like telling us about it, because she's like, yeah, we're renting it right now before we move back into our house, because our house has some renovations going on.
Yeah.
We've been in California, and
well, yesterday when we went and saw the apartment that we saw, we pulled up and there was a car with a license plate that said California on it. And when we went up to that place, I think I mentioned it, that there was a group of people sleeping in the apartment. And all of a sudden...
a mother and 4 sons, and they had the books in the apartment.
They had this lady's books all over the apartment. And we were like, that's weird. They have this lady's books all over the apartment. Turns out that they were all asleep. All of these 4 boys, plus their mom, were all asleep in this apartment while we were looking at it yesterday. And we all just kind of...
laughed really hard.
Laughed about it.
Because I was like...
Because I very specifically remember the littlest one, he's like 12 or something like that, sprawled out on an air mattress because he was so like in view, like dead asleep. Yeah. And
we were trying not to look at them, otherwise we know the oldest one, so we would have recognized him. But we were trying not to look at them, like we were just trying to like glance at the rooms and then get out of there.
It felt super awkward to be in there with all of them asleep and like trying to whisper, but like because especially this one kid was completely conked out and just like sprawled out all over the place, and it was really funny. And I like immediately realized I connected that image of that kid and the kid that we were talking to in my head, and realized that they were the same person.
It was just too funny. And so she's sitting there describing the apartment, and I was like, wait, did you guys get in a red eye like yesterday morning? And she's like, yes. And I was like, we were in your apartment
while you were sleeping.
The world's really small. Like how is this a thing?
It was really funny at the time. It was very, especially because they were like, you were what? You were in our apartment while we were sleeping. It was great. And then the mom, the author that we talked about, said she'll put in a good word for us with the landlord. So that'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna be able to fill out the application until I get to work tomorrow. So because my computer's completely dead. But
yeah, it was just a really funny, weird thing, and like I literally laughed the whole way home. I was just like, my face hurt by the time I got home because it was just the funniest, most random, like, how small is the world? That like I read this author's books and met her, and then met her sons not realizing it was her, and then
we went to
really getting along with them, and then
we happened to have been at their apartment that they were trying to convince us to go to. They wanted us to live near them so we could like hang out and talk about books and play video games. And they're like trying to convince us to stay at this apartment and like trying to sell it to us. And we were like, we literally just saw this apartment yesterday that you're describing right now. This is the exact same apartment. I think that's probably where we're going to end it today.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't posted it yet, but there would have already been a video explaining before we leave the many difficulties that we're going through with my computer and why vlogs aren't going to be updated until by the time we get back. And we're very sorry for that. But the good news is, now that you're seeing this, you'll start to see, we're leaving in 2 days, and you'll start to see our California /wedding/honeymoon vlogs very, very, very soon, I promise. They'll be up soon by the time you see this. So,
oh, yeah. So excited!
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching.
And we'll see you tomorrow.